Hi, my name is Jess, this is Knitting on Sweater Avenue, and this is everything I knit in 2025. And for a bonus, I have gone through all of my records that I can find, and I have found and calculated how much everything has cost. With a few minor caveats, which I'll just get to when I get to them, but basically for some I just couldn't find anything. If people I don't get gifted yarn, but if I have been given presents by some of my friends, I have not gone to look at how much that cost. And if I have given something as a gift, I'm not going to look up how I don't know, felt a bit weird to share how much I spent on a present for someone else. But for the rest of it, I have actually managed to find a lot of how much everything cost. I have how much it cost in my notebook. I have my iPad so I can check my Ravelry, and I have my first project. So I finished the April cardigan by Petite Knit in late January 2025. I started it in May 2024. I think I basically started it at the same time as a bunch of other projects, so it took quite a long time to get finished. I have knitted this in Knitting for Olive and Fibre Space Cumulus. One of them is in the colour Noir and the other is in the colour Licorice. I think the Knitting for Olive is Licorice. I will link to my Ravelry if you want more details. I'll admit I am not always amazing at keeping records, and I try and remember when I finish things, but I sometimes go in later and put in a bunch of finished things. So it basically depends when I took a picture of the finished object. I have no records of how much this cost except for the buttons, which cost me $9, and I picked up in rural Victoria. It was near where my partner's parents are living, and we went on a little adventure. This is probably my most worn garment. It is just perfect. I really wanted a black cardigan. I couldn't find anything in shops that was exactly what I wanted. It is soft, it is cozy. I really like the fit. I'm not very good at showing sleeve lengths, but I like the fit. It is a bit longer than bracelet length, but it's very nice and cozy. And I reckon in the cooler months, I get wear out of this at least once a week. So total winner. But yes, cost of this that I can find is $9, but I have more details on the ones coming out from this. Yeah, first item of the year was an absolute winner. I didn't love knitting it. Knitting black yarn is very difficult, but it was definitely worth it. So that's number one. Now number two. The second thing I finished in 2025 is my storm sweater. I knit, where's the front? There's the front. I knit the Storm Sweater Man. I finished it in March, and I knit it on a 4.5mm needle using Sandnes Garn Double Sunday and Tin Silk Mohair held together. I've done a few of Petite Knit patterns and found that the choice that she uses is a bit dense. So I wanted to use a 4.5mm needle, but that does mean that this is huge. Let me just put it on. It is super lovely and cozy, but the sleeves are like double the width they sort of would need to be in order for them to be they're huge. I didn't measure my gauge at any point. This is completely my fault. But it's very wide too. It's like wide and long, and it's a bit crinkled because I have it rolled up in the drawer, but I do really love it. It's super cute. I don't get as much wear out of this one. It's definitely ended up being more of a cozy at home piece because of how oversized it is. Like, the sleeve is just so big, but I'm glad I made it. I might go back and re-knit it. I'm a bit prone to doing that kind of thing. I've at least one, I like knitting. I may as well go back and fix the things. Got plenty of jumpers that I can wear while I'm fixing. So this is the storm sweater. I bought this yarn with my mum, we ordered together from a yarn shop that I am not even going to try and pronounce because it was like Dutch, I think, but it was basically a way to get Sandnes Garn at that point a bit cheaper, and it ended up being about $250 Australian. So I did them both in the sort of dark green colour. what I might do with this. So I think I bought this yarn 2024 or 2023 even, but here we are, finished in 2025. So that is item number 2. And now I'm going to take it off. Oh. I've got to say, if my hair wasn't a disaster before, it will be by the end of this. So the third thing I finished in 2025, I don't have, but I do have a picture of. This was a gift knit for my grandma. It is the Ascal Shawl by, I believe, Durerum Natura. It was super fun. It's sort of this shawl which has these traveling I-cord kind of as it goes along, and it's not dissimilar to one of the petite knit Sophie shawls, I guess, but what I liked was it had a little bit more interest. I knitted it using some of the remainder of my Cami Exordium Surrey alpaca held with a Morris & Sons 4-ply yarn, and I just held that like so. I already had the Exordium, so I just picked up some of the Morris & Sons, and it was just, yeah, it was a really, like, it went down really well. I think she likes it, and a little bit later on I knit her some matching gloves, but I will talk about them in chronological order. So that's number 3, and now number 4. The fourth thing I finished in last year, in May, was this. This is a hack that I did between the Knitting for Olive Astrid sweater and the Crayabea Rue sweater. So I took the Crayabea Rue sweater top half and then I merged it with the curved hem of the Astrid sweater. I tried a lot of times, I did a lot of swatching to try and work out if I could knit this top down, because that's what I wanted. I'm a bottom up hater, so I basically only knit things top down, but I couldn't. I tried a few things, but the increases just didn't look as good as the decreases, and so in the end I actually just knit the top from the top and the bottom from the bottom and Kitchener stitched it in the middle. This is using some yarn that, now let me find it. So this is using the Kinross 4-ply in the colour Loch Ore, and I bought it from them, from Wee County Yarns, and it cost me 188 Australian dollars, but it was in pounds, but I converted, and I held it double for this. I did recently go back in and lengthen the sleeves. You can see I lengthened them by about that much, because they shrunk up a bit, as sleeves often do, and this is just glorious. I know I said the April cardigan was my favourite knit of the year, and although it is probably the most worn, I felt the most proud about this one. This just, like, people certainly don't guess that you're wearing a hand knit when you pull this out. They generally are a bit less crinkled than this, and I just think it looks fabulous. And I'm so proud. I'm so glad that I put the effort into working out. I did a lot of trial and error to see if I could work out. Let me put it on. See if I could work out how to get it to work, trying to knit it from the top down. And even though I didn't succeed, I felt like I learned a lot. And put this back on. I just really, really am happy with the final product. I think the fit is amazing. I was also completely off gauge, so I was, making up the gauge, and it really felt like even though I hacked 2 patterns together, it really felt like I designed it. But let me just show you the top of it, or the bottom of it. So it just has this really nice little curved hem. I think it looks fabulous. Sometimes I worry that it makes me look pregnant. I'm not, but yeah, that's the gist. But yes, I really like it. It's way too warm to keep trying these on, but I'm going to do my best. I finished this in May, and I took it on my trip when we went on a road trip. We were in Ireland, Scotland, and I took it, and it just worked so good. I feel like it elevates an outfit. I think it's fabulous, and I definitely want to knit the Rue sweater, because it's a colourwork sweater that I just took the colourwork out of. And so yeah, it's a fabulous one. But yes, that is number 4, I think. So let me take this off, and then I will go through number 5. All right, item number 5 was not for me, but I do have it. It is this. It smells like a fireplace. So this is the zipper sweater man that I knit for my, I guess then boyfriend, now fiance. And this is the reason that I ripped out my Moby sweater for him. So let me put it on, even though it does definitely need to be chucked through the wash. Oh. So it's just the zipper sweater. Oh, this is actually another one that I don't have the full cost of. The only cost I have is the zipper cost me $11. I knit it. Did I knit it to pattern? Not at all. So this is the Cascade. I used Cascade 220. I knit it on a 4.5mm needle because I knew that he gets quite warm and so he wouldn't want it to be too hardy. And I finished it for him and he wears it all the time. We've had to depill it so much. It's still got pills all over it. I'm gonna have to, we'll wash it sometime over the next week. It's pretty warm, so it's not like he needs to wear it. But I will say the Cascade 220 has pilled a lot more than I expected. So I finished this in May or June. Let me double check. No, that's going to take me too long to check. I finished this, there you go. Wow. I started this at the end of March and I finished it at the beginning of June. So it took me 2 months and I focused pretty hard because I knew he would be excited about it. Stitching in the zipper was not hard. But he basically wore this, I would say, every other day after I finished it. And so it's definitely it's getting a beating. But it's pilled so much. So I don't know whether or not that's relating to how soft it is, because it is pretty soft. Like, I don't mind having it against my skin. And more importantly, he doesn't mind, whereas he finds peer gynt a bit more difficult. And so I knit this for him. He wore all the time. So I took the other sweater that I've knit for him, which is the Moby Sweater Man, and I completely ripped it out. I'm knitting it again because it was definitely too small. And I just the amount he wore this proved to me that he would definitely wear it a lot if it fit him a bit better. So yes, that is his zipper sweater. And I am going to take it off now. So that's item number 6. Yeah, that's 6. 7 is a bit of a trauma. Okay. Oh. So, item number 7 is back on the needles, but I am going to say that it counts as a finished object, even though I'm not going to be able to try it on. I knit the Midland Cardigan by Laura Penrose, and I've got a lot to say. No, the pattern is amazing. I screwed it up, just to be clear. It's my bad. So I started the Midland Cardigan in February 2025. I finished it in June, and it is very cool, but I just screwed up the button band. So that's what I'm redoing. I'm just redoing the button band. I have one on the needles. I don't know if I'm happy with it. I might restart it again. It was just such an interesting pattern. The construction is interesting. Let me see if I can try it on with the needles. Well, it's a bit of a we're in a bit of a state of chaos, but anyway. I had to redo the sleeves, the cuffs a couple of times because I made them too tight, but I really like the sort of the 2-stitch faux seam that runs down it. I really wanted just a sort of casual grey cardigan, and I thought the construction was really interesting. So yeah, this was a total winner. This cost me $132. So I used Sanders Garn Peer Gynt in it's a grey tweedy colourway, and the tweed bits are in sort of like a mustard and an eggplant, or if for those playing along at home, that's purple and yellow. I would say purple and yellow. I think they're pretty classically purple and yellow, which is interesting because in the photographs of the yarn, I thought they were like camel and like beige camel and like charcoal. So I wasn't super thrilled with the purple and yellow, but I do think that it works pretty well, and actually I do love a little bit of eggplant and mustard, as you will see coming up, so I guess it sort of fits in. I ended up ordering the yarn from a company in New Zealand, and to avoid paying shipping costs, I had a friend coming back from New Zealand for a trip, and I just asked if they could bring it with them. So that was very nice. They brought it back for me, and it meant that I didn't have to pay shipping, and I think it counted as free shipping in New Zealand. So that was a win. But yeah, haven't worn that one as much because I did the button band too tight, so it was like doing this weird bunching thing, and like it was short. It was like anyway, it was not vibing, but hopefully once I finish it for a second time, it will be a bit better. So that's number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That was number 6, I think. So number 7, my foray into mustard. This is the second vest I've ever knit, and I didn't want to just knit exactly the same vest as the first vest, but I did really like it. So I basically ended up, it's a V-neck vest in another bright colour. The other one might be orange, but this one is yellow. So this is the Avenue vest by Tori Yu, and I obviously did the V-neck version. This is using a BFL yarn from Cami that I got as a bit of an accident, but then I'm holding with it some tin silk mohair from Sanders Garn in the colour Brown Sugar, and so I only had to pay for the mohair, tin silk mohair, and that was $53. And I actually, as it turns out, I bought that for a different project which I didn't end up using it for, and it just wasn't the right colour, and then I had these two yarns and I wasn't sure what to do with them, and so they've ended up here, and I think it's good. It took the other yarn, it took the BFL from a colour that I wasn't quite so sure about to this sort of mustardy brown, which I really like and I think works better than I expected. I really like, let me just come a bit closer. I really like the way that it's got this like 2x2 rib, and then you do a little bit of stockinette before you bind off, and I really like those edgings, so it's got that all over. Just show you the bottom. And although I have stuffed with the length a bit, I'm pretty happy with the length now, which you can't see. There's the joys of being on the couch. So it's sort of just below waist, at a high hip. But yeah, this one definitely doesn't get as much wear. I guess I should have known, like I already have a vest, so now the vests are sort of competing because I wear them in relatively similar ways and with similar outfits. And I do love a bright orange vest, so this one certainly, I guess I didn't set it up for success in the same way, but I do feel good when I wear it. I feel like it makes me look long, which is not something I need, but I think it's quite groovy. But yes, that is number 7, I guess. I'm just going to leave it on while I talk you through number 8. I did this first? Yeah, okay. This is number 8. These are a hacked version of the Claudia Gloves by Also Makes. And when I hacked it, I just didn't want to do twisted rib, so instead I did a 2x2 rib. You'll just have to excuse my watch on this side. And I think I changed the increases from make ones to, like, rather than make one left and right, I did LLI, RLI, right, lifted increase, left lifted increase. And I wouldn't be able to recreate that because I can't remember which, like I think I didn't, it wasn't make one left is switched for left lifted increase, I don't think. So maybe I switched them. But yeah, I like that the increases come up the hand. I think they look cute. I didn't do, there was like meant to be ribbing on the thumb that I just didn't do. And although I like them, they mostly just sit in my work bag because I wear them on the way to the train if it's a bit cold, which is good because if I wear them around my fiance, then he asks if I'm going to play Magic the Gathering, which is funny. Anyway, that is number 8, and that sort of ties in with, oh yeah, I don't know how much these cost because I used scrap yarn that my mum had left over from a sweater she knit. So this is the Knitting for Olive Pearl Grey held with the Blackwater Yarns Surrey Alpaca, also in the pearl grey colour, but it's just her leftovers, so I didn't pay for this. And if I had knit her sweater, then I wouldn't have counted this because I would have counted the cost towards the sweater. Anyway, I also knit my grandmother a pair of basically the same gloves, but using the remainder of the yarn that I had left over. So this is the Cami Yarns Surrey Alpaca in the colour Exordium, held with the Morris & Sons I want to say Empire 4-ply. I put a lot of effort into hers because I twisted the stitches one way on one hand and the other way on the other hand. Unfortunately, no one else can tell because what a useless thing to do. But I told her and I told my mum and they were both like, can't see that. Anyway, it was a fun little, I feel like it's fun for me to make these changes. I feel really proud of it, even if no one else really cares. And they were a hit, so yeah, they match with her scarf, which is pretty nice. Again, no cost on that one. But yeah, that one was definitely a hit. All right, I'm going to take this off for my next successful, well, I guess they've all been pretty successful this year. If they haven't, I'll rip them out. So I'll take those off and move these out of the way. All right, my next object in the year was my road sweater by Ozetta. This, wait, let me just yeet it, reef it over my head. All right. This has definitely taken me down an I love Ozetta path. I haven't actually managed to knit more of her knits like patterns, but there's many more in my like mental queue that I want to. I love it. So this is the road sweater by Ozetta using a color from Explorer Knits and Fibers called Tawny in their Earthy DK. It cost me a whopping $293, including nearly $60 of shipping. But I was deep in my land of, if I want it, I'm going to buy it. So that's where I got. This, I love it so much. So I think I made 2 changes to the pattern. I did the same, so you do a sort of 2x2 rib and then that sort of stockinette and then bind off, and I did that on the neck with some decreases, whereas it wanted you to do like a tubular cast off. And then at the back, I continued there's like a garter stitch and I continued it all the way along the back. This is the other sweater that I took on our trip. Thought it, was a good offset to the other one. This one's definitely more of like a casual throw on. I think it looks great with jeans. I think it looks good with my belaires. Well, there's a spoiler for later in the episode. And it's so good. It's a bit lighter. It's like, because it's on it's a DK weight yarn that I knit on a 5mm needle, I think. And I've got to say, there's been a few knits this year that just like blow it out of the park. I'm really happy. I really like the changes I made. I was a bit worried about the length, but it hits really nicely. I'm a big fan. This one I started in April and I finished at the end of July, which was good. Had a month and then I took it on my trip in September. And I feel like I've got nothing else to say about it. Again, if you have any questions, let me know. And or I might have put useful notes in my Ravelry, but I also might not have because I'm not super good at that. But yes, this is my road sweater. I love it. It's too hot again for it. And now we have, what I have to say is I think my only fail of the year. Okay, taking off overglasses, not a win. All right, this is, I'm gonna say, my only fail of the year. And it's a bit of a bummer because it had the potential to be fantastic. This is my Cognac Sweater by Atelier Castin, and it's sort of, I thought it was a bit similar to basically it's a fingering and a mohair knit on a much larger gauge. There was a pattern in either a pom-pom or a liner magazine a few years ago. I want to say it started with an L, which was a raglan version, whereas this one is European shoulder construction or contiguous, I'm not really sure. The neckline is weird, so I feel like I can't really wear a t-shirt underneath, but I'm not super big on just like wearing a sweater without it. I used 2 yarns held together here. This is the Paisley Knits Salty Fingering in the colour Earl Grey Tea. I do love tea. And I've held it together with an Isaga soft silk mohair. I couldn't find the mohair cost, but the hand-dyed fingering cost me $85, including the portion of its shipping. which means I'm guessing this would have cost me in the realm of, it's probably another 100 for the mohair, maybe less, so you don't use so much because it's on such a wide gauge. So it, you know, it had the potential to be really cute. The sleeves, I did this sort of, it's meant to be like a non-rolling stockinette bind off. I did that on the hem as well. It's got an I-cord around the neck. So it has the potential to be really cute, but I just don't wear it. I don't know, maybe it's about when I finished it. When I initially finished it, the bottom of the hem was flaring. Let me just come up here. Just cut my own head off. I have managed to do so the hem doesn't really flare so much, so that's a win. And it is actually pretty cute, so maybe I was burnt by the fact that I finished it and wasn't happy with it, and that sort of cooked it for me. But yeah, this is definitely one that's been worn probably 0 times. I reckon, I don't think I've worn it at all, which is a shame, but maybe I just need to work on my mindset and then it'll get worn again. It also doesn't sit with my other jumpers. I've like put it somewhere else, I think because I wasn't happy with it, which definitely doesn't help. So yes, moving on from an unsuccessful make to a very successful make. Ta-da! This is my top sole. I'm going to put it on over my t-shirt because I can't be bothered to not, but I would normally not wear it over my t-shirt. I would just wear it. Although, kind of vibe. So this is my top sole by Mochi Knits. I knit it completely off gauge, and as a result I had to make a bit of a change, but I'm pretty happy with it. This is using a kind of rogue hemp cotton modal yarn, and total cost for this one is $65, so that's pretty cheap for my projects. I absolutely love it. It is so fun for like a summer top. I just stitched it together in the middle. It's open, but I stitched it together. So these crochet ties are just for decoration, and then it's open at the very bottom. And then the only thing I've done, I'm just going to take it off to show you, is because I was off gauge, it ended up being a little bit too wide at the back particularly. And so with my sewing knowledge, I added a box pleat. And so it's just a little pleat stitched down a bit far, and it just brings the neckline in a bit more. It looks like that on the inside. I'm pretty happy with it. I did a test version, decided I liked it, stitched it up properly, and it just brings it in a bit more at the sort of back neck, which means that it brings that in a bit more, which brings the sleeves in a bit more, which means you can see the edging on the sleeve, which is just a little garter, a couple of stitches of garter on the edge. This is really a cool knit. It had no finishings. I guess, okay, maybe that's not true. Maybe you had to crochet these little pieces, but it had essentially no finishings because you do these edges as you go, and the same with the front neckline. So the front neckline is sort of 2-stitch I-cord basically. But yes, no, I'm a big fan. I think I would knit this one again, and maybe I will for the next summer. I didn't block it, I steam blocked it, which I've never done before, by which I mean I ironed it under a towel at my parents' house. But it worked like a charm, and I think it's really cute. And I did that non-rolling hem on this one as well. Sorry, I'm trying to see. Non-rolling hem, like stockinette hem on the bottom there. Oh, so that's that. We are slowly but surely getting to the very end. I only have a couple left, and I am missing at least one gift knit. But here we go. Number, God, what are you up to? 11, maybe? I will say I did a few of these I finished this year, but I certainly didn't start this year. But this one I did. This is my Kai sweater. Also in competing for the favorite knit of the year. I think partly what makes this one so, like, what brings it so close to the top was that I used really fancy yarn. So it just feels so good. So for this, I used the Sandnesgarn Sunday held with Isaga mohair in a burgundy colour and a beige colour. I absolutely adore it. So this is the Kai sweater by Second Knit, which is this wide stripe. I think it's so fabulous. When they initially were posting pictures of the pattern, I was like just obsessed, and all I wanted to do was knit the version that she had done. I went down a deep Ravelry rabbit hole trying to work out because I wanted to use Sunday with Issega mohair, because I find the tin silk mohair a bit itchy scratchy. It's good for some things, like if I want a bit more structure. It's obviously got a bit of wool. I also don't like the Knitting for Olive one. It's also like good, fine, but like the Issega one is so soft. So I really wanted to use that, and I like the Sandals Gone Sunday. But anyway, I think the color match is pretty cool. It's like the mohair has like a dark core for the beige, which I think was pretty groovy. This one altogether, definitely a pricey one, $223. Partly because I'm a gum nut and I accidentally ordered decided I was going to run. So I initially bought 4 balls of the merino and mohair in purple and 2 in beige, like of each. And then I just like decided I was going to run out of beige. I hadn't even started running out of beige. And so I bought an extra ball of each, which I didn't need. And I just then was like, why did I do that? I think I must have been in a weird phase. But this one has already gotten a lot of wear. It is actually, my gauge was small, so I knit a larger size, but it's kind of nice. It's a pretty lightweight jumper, and it's so soft. So I'm totally okay like wearing it next to skin and like, yeah, straight on skin. It's amazing. I love it. It's so good. And I used light on the inside. I think I was slightly worried about running out of purple. Again, no risk. But anyway, so that is that one. I finished that towards the end of August, which is getting us closer to the end of the year, because towards the end of the year, I was like, oh, I need to finish all my whips. And I finished none of them. It's not even that I cast anything else on. I just had such a quantity of whips that I was still trying to work on multiple whips, and so it just wasn't getting anywhere. This one I won't try on because I don't think it'll really work over the top of my t-shirt so well. But this is my mixed ribbed cami by Florence Miller that I just hacked to high hell. So first of all, yarn. Just use scrap yarns. I had a ball each of these colors. So we have, this is gonna be a struggle. So I think we have Putty is the lightest one, and then Camel Rose, Dusty Rose, Burnt Orange. That's my guess. I am pretty sure all of those yarns are leftovers of my mum's. She just gives me all the leftovers because she doesn't really want to have a stash, and so, which is good, but that then means that I have quite a big leftover stash. So I've tried to use it a few times towards the end of this year. The main difference of the pattern is, as you can probably tell, there's no twisted stitches because I don't really like them. So as a result, instead I switched about for a 2x2 rib, which I think is pretty cute. And then I did my edgings in the burnt orange. The other thing I did was, it's meant to be a boat neck top, but I tried it on and it was feeling really high at the top. So I cut and like deepened the neckline by 2 color stripes, I think. So they're just 6 rows of each color. This one was an absolute champ. It was great for traveling. So I worked on this while I was traveling. I didn't manage to finish it, but I worked on it while I was traveling, and it was really good because it's sort of interesting enough that if there's nothing else going on, it gives me something to do, but I actually don't mind just working on it and not thinking about it as well. Like I can get into a bit of a flow state, as we had a fair bit of driving to do, and so I could just knit on this as we drove around. And I really like the colours. I ummed and ahed. I had the first 3. I didn't have the orange to start with. The orange makes it, in my opinion, but I love orange, so that's kind of okay. And it's just fabulous. So yes, this one cost me nothing. But it's an absolute winner. I really like it. I had a little stress about how long to make it because I wasn't sure whether or not I needed to finish a pattern repeat, but I think it ended up being okay to finish with the pattern repeat Like, because one, when you're not sure, like a full pattern repeat feels like a lot to add. Yeah, that's basically where I was at. Yes, so only a couple more projects. This one I actually haven't shown finished on the podcast yet, but I have worn and it's gorgeous. So this is my Scrappy Aros sweater. I knit this towards the end of this year with the goal of trying to use up some of my scraps, and it really doesn't feel like I used up as many as I thought I would. It was one of those kind of weird things of, as I was getting to the end, it was getting a bit tricky to pick which colours I wanted to use, but I still have heaps of scrap yarns. Anyway, so this is the Aros sweater by Petite Knit that I have knit in a mixture of yarns, predominantly Knitting for Olive Merino and Double Merino and Santa's Gone Sunday and Double Sunday. I think there's maybe a few random yarns that are not in those, but that's for the most part it. I used scraps from my yarn stash, my mum's and my grandma's. They both just give me their scrap yarns if I am doing anything. And the only cost for this one was I spent $17 on this navy here because I wanted to have something to tie it together. So if I come a bit closer. So I used sort of 2-row stripes as a way to sort of hold things together. This is the Santa's Gone Cocoa Bean that I've used a couple of times. And then as I go further down, I think I had a little bit of black, but I thought at one point that I might do the navy as the neck and the cuffs, and then I decided not to. I did match it, except for this stripe here is not the same yarn. This is Knitting for Olive Burnt Orange, and this is like the Santa's Gone Sunday Burnt Orange, because I didn't have enough left over to do it all, but then I did have enough to use that again down here. So I think I just had slightly less of this than I thought, and then I kept finding little bits. So yeah, it was pretty fun. I mostly tried not to stress too much about the stripes. I wanted it to look sort of unintentional. I didn't want them to match. At times I ripped back and like changed the stripe pattern, and at one point I had this like pretty cool, I'll put in a picture actually of what I had, which was it was sort of this like a bit like this bit but longer and sort of rainbowy, and I thought it looked really cool, but I didn't really think it worked with the rest of the sweater, so I ripped that out and switched it out for, I think I switched it out for sort of this panel here. But yeah, this was definitely felt like a winner to finish off the year with. It's fabulous, and it feels very 70s, but that kind of works, I think, in my favor. I love a bit of 70s dressing, and I get a lot of compliments when I wear it. So that is my third last item to show you. The second last item I don't have here. It was a gift knit for one of my aunts. I knit the Herding Hens socks for her for Christmas. We do a little Kris Kringle, and she was my recipient. I think they went down a treat. I am hoping that I definitely have a picture of them partway through. I'm not sure if I have a picture of them actually finished, but I just did 1 row of the chickens because although I think they're fabulous, I thought there was a bit much to do the whole thing. So yeah, that was that went down a treat. I just did the sort of 64 stitch size, and I just followed my other pattern in my head for the rest of it. So I just have I follow, what's it called? The Crazy Sock Lady Socks on 9-inch Circulars pattern, and I didn't really think about it much like that. But yes, that was my second last one. And last, but definitely not least, I undertook an absolute mission over Christmas. So I convinced 13 plus me, members of my family, to knit the Sailor Slippers by Annie Sews, I think. So first I had to call everyone up and convince them. So this is sort of, I knit, my mum knits, and my grandma knits. And then when my brother, he had to have a knee reconstruction, so he picked up knitting at that point, so he can knit if he doesn't knit as much, and his girlfriend can also knit. But I managed to convince, I'll just start there. So I managed to convince, so that was me. I managed to convince my partner Ben, my sister and her boyfriend both agreed. Then my brother and his girlfriend know how to knit, and so they were happy too. my mum, I managed to convince my dad and my granddad, so that's grandma and granddad, and then we were going to be away with 2 of my cousins and their mum and dad, so my aunt and uncle. And so I managed to convince all of them to knit the sailor slippers. It was easier than I expected to convince them. And then I made a whole Excel document so that I could get people's, so I needed to know what size they were, and then I wanted them to pick their colors. We used Cascade 220 Grand that I ordered from Makery in Canberra, because that's where we were based and my grandparents picked up while we were on our hike. And so I suggested that people pick 2 colors, so like the 2 stripe colors. So here's mine. So I suggested they pick their 2 colors, and then they could say which of those they wanted to use for the bottom. And then I was like, we're not going to order an extra yarn for people to use around the top, so you can just use someone else's colors around the top. So mine are in doe skin, and so this is doe skin and mocha heather. So doe skin's the light one and mocha is the dark one. And then these lighter colors, I think they're summer sky heather and sapphire, I think. But everyone has finished. Not everyone managed to finish them before the end of the year, but I did. And then we felted them. It was a wild experience. When knitting these things, I've got a few pics that I'll try and include, but they start looking like clown shoes, just mental. And then you chuck them in the washing machine, and they come down a bit, and then they come down again. I think I ended up washing mine 4 times in this particular washing machine, but each to their own. And they're so cute. They are fabulous. So I've got a few pics that I'll try and include of they were by the time. So we were down the coast with everyone for a few days, and so we managed to get 6 finished while I was there, which did mean that I left my mum and my aunt and one of my cousins with the job of assisting everyone to finish. So because we had a few reticent starters, a few competitive early on finishers, and a few, my dad, my granddad, and my uncle were sort of competing towards the end. But they knit them, they seamed them, they picked up the I-cord, everything else. So everyone did a great job, and they've all finished. So we have 14 successful pairs of slippers, which is just absolutely insane for the end of the year. Everyone did such a great job. But yeah, so that was so fun, and it was really great to finish the year off with a bit of a bang. So yeah, I hope that is all. That's everything I knit. That's everything I finished. There's so many other things that I didn't finish. I had a goal to try and finish my whips by the end of the year. This is the only thing I finished. The rest of them just sort of, I worked. I think if I'd committed to one, I would have finished like another one, but I just continued working across my projects. So I have a couple that I have like finished the body or nearly finished the body on, and so I think they'll come out, I think I do this a lot. I cast on a lot, and then I sort of get them all finished, they'll be finished sort of 2 weeks apart or something as I smash out sleeves. But yes, thank you so much for watching. If you made it all the way to the end, I hope you had a wonderful holiday period, and if you're back to work like me, then I hope you're getting back into it. Looking forward to another great year. And yeah, I don't know if I've managed to work out what my favorite knit is. I reckon it's probably a competition between these 2. Like the April cardigan is amazing, but it's a really great knit, but it's not my favorite, whereas I think one of these 2 might be. But yeah, I hope you're having a great time, and I will see you with a general update in my next video, but otherwise, see you later.